how all these problems can be solved in a sustainable way, circular Büyükada is our approach to give a solution. The concept of a circular island takes the dynamics and potentials of Büyükada as an isolated island microcosm and transfers them into a spatial vision. To give a brief introduction, we will explain what circularity means in our approach and how this vision reflects in a studio with 6 groups working on the topic of Büyükada. One of the biggest problems of our 21st century, which reflects even harder on an island microcosm, is the way how our society's consumption has generally followed a linear approach. Materials are sourced, used, and finally disposed of as waste, known as the take, make, use waste model. This produces negative impacts on the environment, including rising carbon emissions and widespread ecosystem pollution. Only a small part of the material gets recycled and comes back to the system. The availability of cheap natural resources has enabled this approach to endure. However, as sustainability is being more important than ever, and resources are becoming harder and more expensive to access, it is becoming critical to find alternative means of sourcing and using natural resources. The circular society builds an ideal to change this end-of-life concept. The circular society builds an ideal to change this end-of-life concept of material. It aims to create a system of utilization that becomes efficient in the making and using of material, so it minimizes resource extraction. Apart from fully recovering the material that cannot be used anymore, products and assets are designed to be more durable and to be repaired, refurbished, and reused and assembled again. These principles reflect a way of thinking, which besides a positive impact on the environment, are also beneficial for users and producers, since they create affordable and long-lasting solutions. To apply this picture of circularity on the island, we created a vision redefining the connection between Istanbul and Adalar, which shall not be based anymore on the tourist waste model. In our vision, Istanbul is, with its immense potential, is the scientific component, enabling and bringing the ability on Büyükada to use their local resources with the necessary technique and machines. Büyükada and the Adalar Islands define themselves as a circularity network, using the available resources to implement a circular material flow. The connection back to Istanbul should not be based on sending back waste. Adalar will be the pioneer for experiencing circularity with potentials for research, a new productivity, and preserving the culture on the islands through losing the dependency on tourism flows.
And we will show how to reach this vision in the upcoming concept, but before that, we will take a step back to look at the material circles on Büyükada to understand from which point we have to start for a change in circularity. And for our process, we developed a material language defining the potentials which are laying inside the materials found on the island. And we identified 4 big material categories with their material qualities, and each material takes an equal part in the system of circularity. And the main material categories found on the island are building materials, daily use material, and organic material, as well as tools and use material. In each category, we find different material qualities that is not to be seen excluded, then more can be connected to other categories and material potentials. For example, a material which can be shared can also be reused or recycled. The material categories also help us to understand the gaps in circularity on the island while looking at their existing flows. And for our strategy, as mentioned in the beginning, different approaches can be made for circular economy, such as using materials in long cycles, use products again through repairing, refurbishing, and converting, the recycling of material as a source for new products, and the minimization of use through sharing and creating sustainable products. These principles are the basis for creating strategies for Büyükada. And we designed these strategies, and they are not only connected to the principle of circular society, they also refer to the materials potential and identified on the island. So therefore, connecting materials and strategies brings up a holistic approach on materials of Büyükada, trying to close all the gaps in it. And our strategy is generic for the whole island. The strategies are deeply connected and work together. Some of them can be seen how the approaches can be implemented as a whole in our spatial connection part. But also, and the next one, please. But also in our studio, every groups are connected to our each strategy in terms of circularity. For the beginning, they will be explained briefly in this part. After our group, the others will present in this order which you see on the left. First, reviving by populating. They take on a role that attracting young people by transforming the local economy through new business models. Then Gastro Circle Group, they made this gastronomic route for island. They propose using local agricultural product and festivals for Büyükada. Then island gardening, they use organic materials and composting them to produce fertilizers for flower and garden production in the island. Then active open spaces group, they have this strategy about converting the same spaces for different activities by using changeable structures and using the recyclable materials for this one. At the end, the Büyükada group in this context takes a digital part, making the island digitally experiential and cluster the needs of circular approach in an application. After this, they can be seen on the right side how they connect to our strategies. With all of this, in the next part, it will be shown how we approach to the island to create a circular society with the potentials of Büyükada's dynamics to make it more sustainable and livable in itself. So our first strategy is the Material Hub. And it will be Büyükada's platform and stock of materials used for projects on the island and the base to find new ways of processing and upgrading not only reusable materials as well as sourcing new resources for production. So the hub contains two main aspects. The first one is technical process of recovering the materials, and the other one is the material bank, which stores and manages the distribution of reusable and repairable elements on the island. The hubs gives the ability to make usable materials physical and digital available on island itself. The second one is sharing society. And beside finding solutions to organize material on Büyükada physically, the sharing society builds up a digital and spatial counterpart, sharing objects, tools, items, food, and other things, increase the usage and the value of products and help to consume less individually. And to do this, physical spaces and digital platforms are needed. Besides sharing objects and spaces, producing collaboratively will be the part of the Büyükada. It will be its future. For the spaces to create and produce together will be needed on the island. And the next one is transformative economy. Working collaboratively in our economical approach has to be thought differently for reaching the goals of a circular system, seeking a sustainable and transformative economy, rethinking the part of constant economic growth is thought in this strategy. This transformation can be done through low threshold projects, working together on repairing and converting things, and therefore creating know-how and awareness for circular society, but also for economical approach, using the waste we produce as a resource for new business models through these micro factories is a chance for limited space of Büyükada. And these factories describe the simplified production, a circle in circular economy, from generating source through waste and reusing it in digital fabrication methods. And the next one is converting space and material. To explore the potentials of materials on the island, also experimental usage of space and objects have to be experienced. Here, innovation and new ideas created, connecting them with the local culture and event as well as social projects on the island. Our strategy seeks to include the material potential into new open spaces by converting existing spaces. These projects are not only addresses to materials, they also build an inclusive approach for the circular society and giving everyone a chance to participate in the process and show what it is possible by converting and reusing local resources by creating spaces for exchange and cooperation. And the last one is produce locally and collectively. As we mentioned in the beginning, it is also important to embrace the island's culture and local production to close the gaps. Therefore, they have to be shown in our circularity through culture of Büyükada. And these potentials are also have to be emphasized. And your turn, Fred. Thank you.
Thank you, Melisa. So Melisa has shown which strategies can be implemented to enhance the development to a circular Büyükada. But in this context, many processes stay still abstract and generic. Therefore, we would like to go a little bit more in detail in our next part. So the material flow for building material is one example how the different strategies are implemented in a circular process. Since it is only one example, more processes of the other materials are still yet to be defined and are going to be mentioned in more detail by the other groups. The process for the building material starts with the sourcing of the material, its storing and sorting, and its further final use in a project. So the island's material resource are its ruins and empty buildings. With this potential on available resources, a deconstruction strategy for the island is proposed that helps to build down ruined parts which cannot be renovated. The sourcing process starts with the exploration and separation of parts from the building structure. The materials which could be separated get brought to the material hub for further process. The material hub gives the opportunity to use machines and workforce to further disassembly and sort the materials. The parts get stored and cataloged to their further use. The material hub itself is located at the already existing storage space in the east of the island at the logistic harbor. In a restructured approach, the hub provides enough space for material storage either outside or inside. Besides its storage capabilities, it gives the opportunity to combine productive areas for material process with public areas in the opposite of the museum to create a visible production process from outside. In combination with the Büyükada application, materials can be made available in a digital catalog, giving everyone on the island the possibility to use the sourced materials. Different material types can be imagined in a material hub, from building material to tools and also daily use material. Processing materials from the material hub can be done in different approaches, from using the existing local craftsmen to refurbish complicated building parts or use the material itself in their creation process. Besides this, also the view on the materials has to be changed to guarantee their future use. Most design processes today follow a simple idea, from taking the resources which are needed for the production, disregarding their origin. This led us to a thinking which only puts our desires in the foreground, disregarding the material potentials. In a circular economy, the design thinking has to be changed, as well as the relation between us, objects, materials, and natural resources, including every material by its qualities in the design process. By mapping, researching gets an important part in the process of a circular economy. So in the end, the simple product of a reconstructed building gets part of a complicated process of a new approach on material. But the process is worth and also describes a step in a future direction. So how other strategies are going to be implemented in a circular process on the island are now going to be explained. The next group, which is going to follow, is Tom's group with reviving by populating. Thank you.
Okay,